So young people in this country love to vote. They'll vote for their favorite idol. They will vote for the song of the year. They'll even vote for their favorite Miss South Africa contestant. But not when it comes to public elections or political elections. They seem to switch off and lose a little bit of interest. Why though? Is it the manifestos? Is it that they don't believe in politicians? Or is it that politics are generally boring? Well, I have 4 young politicians to help us figure this matter out. Fasiha Hassan from the ANC Youth League task team and the youngest member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature joins me in the studio. Luyolo Mphithi is the DA's youth leader, and Mlungisi Mabaso leads the IFP Youth Brigade. And we're also going to be joined by Nhongo, who's contesting in the upcoming local government elections as an independent. Guys, thank you so much for your time this evening. A very good evening and welcome to South Africa Tonight. Fasiha, let me start off with you. I mean, when we're looking at the current voter registrations, though the IEC seemed to have praised how many people actually turned up to register to vote, but a lot of analysts were saying this has been the lowest turnout for registrations in about 10 years. So it shows that there's a lot of mistrust and there's a lot of voter apathy. In that, where is the young person?
Young people, we know, are very disillusioned with the space. A lot of young people don't feel represented. And you're starting to see that really reflect, not just in voter registration, but also voter turnouts. And I think my colleagues here, all of us who are young people in the space, really have our work cut out for ourselves. Because young people of this country are saying they need more. And frankly, we do need more as young people. We do need more young representatives. And we need more representatives who are in tune and responsible to the issues, or responsive, rather, to the issues of young people.
Well, you're saying that we do need more young people, but do young people, Luyolo, actually trust politicians? Let's be honest here. Luyolo, I think you need to just unmute yourself. There you go. Try again. All right, while we're trying to get you on, Mlungisi, maybe you can take this on in for us. Young people and politics, it almost seems to be a controversy or contradiction in itself. Mlungisi, are you with us? Okay, we're going to try to fix that problem in a short while so that we can get the best out of Luyolo as well as Mlungisi. They're from the IFP as well as the Democratic Alliance, respectively. Okay, we seem to think we have a little bit of audio. Luyolo, if you can hear me, just give us a big nod. There we go. There we go. That's it. So the question that I posed to you was, do young people actually trust politicians?
Look, well, we definitely know that there's a deep mistrust for politicians in this country, and rightfully so. We've seen in the past couple of years huge amounts of corruption happening within the state. We've seen high rates of gender-based violence in this country. We've seen high rates of unemployment. And the fact of the matter is that young people have lost trust in the people who have said to them that they will be able to alleviate the issues that they find. And so I think we do need a reform and a re-strategizing of the current issues that we have in this country. We need new thoughts, new innovative ideas in order for us to be able to move this country forward and be able to do the things that we want to do for the generations to come, for this generation, and be able to really promise and give change that people really require and need. I don't think that this current government has been able to do that. I don't think young people have been inspired to find a government that really speaks to the issues that they face. And ultimately, young people cannot opt into a system that they don't see themselves being represented in or finding expression in. And I think the role of young people who find themselves in these political spaces is to make sure that we knock out those doors to be able to make sure that there's more access for young people in this country.
Well, you're speaking about the broken promises that have been made. I mean, Mlungisi, when we're looking at even the leaders within several political parties, ANC, IFP, Democratic Alliance, one would say, even if we have to take the IFP, for example, how is it that young people can be given a voice when it looks as though those that were in leadership just insisted on maintaining the status quo for the longest period of time? Case in point, Prince Nhongo. It took a while before we saw a new leader coming into the fold. So you wonder, why is it that we keep saying young people need to be given the voice if your very own political party there, your elders have been wanting to be leaders for the longest of times? So do you guys even have a voice?
Well, the reality of the matter is that within our political organization, we are given space to operate and run with our own matters that affect young people. So in the IFP, even though the Prince of Kwapindangan led the IFP for more than 40 years, but the reality of the matter is that he afforded young people an opportunity to grow within the party. We saw the IFP deploying young people into parliament, deploying young people to become the mayors, deploying young people to become MMCs. So within the IFP, young people have been given an opportunity. And in fact, he was one of the leaders who advocated for that within the organization. He believed in young people, hence he gave them an opportunity in this deployment so that they are able to deal with issues of young people. So even within the organization itself, the Youth Brigade was in his office for a very long time, and he afforded them with an opportunity to run their own programs within the organization. He gave them space in decision-making structure so that they become part of decisions that are taken in the organization. So it depends on the culture of the organization, truly speaking.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that it depends on the culture of the organization, but if you had the status quo actually buying into what you were saying right now, we would be seeing the IFP in leadership, wouldn't we? And we'll be seeing the IFP not contesting as one of the oppositions, but perhaps the IFP would be the one that is leading the charge when it comes to ruling party. And speaking about matters of the ruling party, your elders, Fasiha, many of them have been accused of corruption. Many of them have been charged with corruption. Many of them can't make it into the candidate list because they are corrupt. It just seems as though where the ANC's feet tread, there's a terrible bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, where to a point where there's voter apathy. How do you address that? How do you address that as a young person within the African National Congress?
Yeah, Faith, the corruption is a crisis. And I think we have been amongst the first to acknowledge it. But more importantly, we're starting to see extremely tangible things in the fight against corruption. In 2019, we were sitting at the same table, the same colleagues, having very similar discussions. At that time, I would have said we've established, different parts of the SIU and the special tribunal. But right now, we are seeing very senior people in court. We are seeing very senior people who have had to step aside. And we are even seeing people who are starting to change their culture in the organization. I think my colleague from the IFP mentioned it. Is it a problem? Yes. Are we dealing with it? Also a yes. The reality of the matter is that it's going to take time. When you remove a cancer from the system and a cancer from the body, it does take time and it is a painful process. But does that mean we don't remove it? No. It means that we take a very strong stance, zero tolerance. And like I said, if you had asked many people before, I think, this year, would we have seen some of those senior people where we do now, having stepped aside, having actually said, well, I have to face the corruption against me? They probably would have said no, even political analysts. And yet we see very tangible inroads against corruption.
I mean, you keep saying that, to remove a cancer actually takes time to clear it. But the cancer would have been removed had a lot of the young people or the youth league be allowed to be a youth league. Here's my question to you. Is the ANC intimidated by you young people? Because it looks as though the ANC was given a voice, or had given the voice to young people in the time of Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu. And as soon as anything else happened after that, it was, these people have got way too many voices. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to completely disband, and then we're going to put in task teams, and then we're going to put in convening, and then all of a sudden, have you guys even had a Congress?
I think this is exactly the crisis. And I'm really glad that it's come up, because as a member of the NYTT, as a member of one of those appointed structures, one of the main things that we want to do and that we are pushing for is a Congress, which is fundamentally important. But what is more important is not just trying to go back to this golden era of the youth league, but recreating a youth league that is representative of women, one that is progressive in terms of queer issues and marginalized groups, a youth league that can truly represent young people. So are people going to have a bit of ruffled feathers? Perhaps. But the reality is we're here, and we're here to stay. Had it not been COVID... But
do your elders want you?
The reality of the matter is that they are young people, and we're going to... we're coming through. Let me put it in a metaphor. We're coming through the entryway. They can decide if they're going to open the door or if we're going to kick the door down. But we are coming through that door, and we will take our rightful place in the ANC, and we'll take our rightful place in government as young people in this country and as members of the ANC Youth League.
Luyolo, the corner of my eye, I see you laughing as Fasiha is actually speaking. But you guys have got your own issues, don't you? I mean, right now, the Democratic Alliance is seen as a very racist party. no matter how much you can speak about it, John Steenhuisen is not exactly helping his case by advocating it and by certain policies that seem to be favoring the minority group in South Africa and almost disenfranchising anybody who is black, who's a professional, who has a brain, who is talented, who is capable within the Democratic Alliance. Is that not the cause for a lot of the young people just taking the DA with a pinch of salt?
Well, I think for the longest time, we have faced populist arguments by various parties, the ANC and the EFF, that have said that the DA is a racist party, and the DA is not a racist party. I don't think I would be part of the DA if the DA was indeed a racist party. I think what the DA has been able to do is to question policies that have been implemented in this country that have failed to alleviate the black population from the trenches of poverty. We've questioned issues like affirmative action and triple BEE. And we've spoken to how those policies have actually failed in being able to alleviate and to build up the black majority that finds themselves in the trenches of poverty. And so I don't think being able to question that we have drifted into a racist point of view. But in fact, what we've done is we've taken our message to ordinary South Africans, and we've said to ordinary South Africans that, look, when we ask for a vote, particularly in this election, we are talking about basics. We are talking about the basics of water, of electricity. Will you have your street lights on? And that's what we are saying as the DA. We want to get things done. The policies that have implemented in this country have not worked. And I love what Fasiha has pointed out, that it takes time to take a cancer out. But the reality is 27 years in, how much time do you need? How much time do you require for that cancer to be taken out and be removed? Because we are in a race against time. There are people who are living in squalor in this country, and they don't have the luxury of time to wait for the ANC to take out that cancer. And therefore, we need change.
On that note, though, I mean, you keep speaking about services, and I take your point when it comes to services and the Democratic Alliance doing its best to deliver the services to the people using the Western Cape, where you do have the opportunity to govern, as an example. But this is the very same Western Cape where it is one of the inequalities there are absolutely clear-cut, right? As much as we cannot use the suburbs as a way to indicate service delivery in the Western Cape, you have to look at the shacks, you have to look at the informal settlements, and you have to look at whether or not services are delivered there. If the services are not being delivered in the townships, if the services are not being delivered in the informal settlements, then you failed. It doesn't help to look at the suburbs and say, by the way, the DA is actually delivering on his promises. Just taking perspective, 2016, isn't it that 74% of white voters turn out to vote in the local government elections, whereas the black turnout was about 54%? That says something about black people and their ability to cast the X in the Western Cape.
Well, look, let me start with the question around the Western Cape and Cape Town in particular. One thing that I can say is that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I believe that the DA does not find itself, particularly in the city of Cape Town, as one of the top 5 municipalities in the country by mistake. It's because we've understood that we have to be able to deliver to citizens. But services have to go to all areas across the Western Cape and where we govern. And our policies are not for white people or Indian people or black people. They're for South Africans. And so we must admit where there are issues, we must fix them. But I think at hand, what is being debated here is when we look at the prototype of governance, I don't think the ANC has a prototype in which they can say that we can actually govern based on this city or based on this province. Whereas the DA has proven, whether it be in Gauteng, we've got Midvaal, the #1 municipality in Gauteng, we've got the Western Cape, we've got the city of Cape Town, where we've proven that we have a track record of delivering services, of delivering to ordinary South Africans, and not of one racial group, but of all South African citizens, because that is what our political party is about. It is about South Africans, regardless of race or creed. And so I think what we need to focus on right now is really getting things done. People are
well, Luyolo, we're going to expand much more further in terms of how exactly do we get things done. And I know that Fasiha is looking at you with great anticipation to respond to you from the African National Congress. So things are going to get very heated in the studio as we continue with our political look at young people and the youth vote. Where are those young people?